What's happening? What's the business? It's your boy Landlord from Alabama, back with another video. And today, man, I just want to talk about this 2021 draft class, man. Who will step up big? Who's gonna take that second year leap in this draft class, man? First, I want to talk about Israel Mukuamu. Sorry if I butchered your name. I'm sorry. I'm trying. It's kind of difficult. But the cornerback we drafted, man, he said he was going to be the best cornerback, and on the phone with Jerry, you know what I'm saying? And Jerry told him, hey, son, you're going to be a safety, whether you knew it or not. But, you know, he had a lot of confidence coming in. He had a decent count. And, you know, he made some plays throughout count. We thought he was looking pretty decently, man. So, shout out to Israel. And hopefully he can earn him a role on this team next year in 2022. Let's talk about the defensive tackle, Quinton Bohanna. You know, the one who said the linebackers love him because he's gonna let you get some free-flowing, roaming, clean tackles behind him, man. He's take up blocks. That's what he say he does. But, you know, his rookie season, he barely gave us anything. He was really not on the field that much. And, you know, hopefully he can get that off-season peanut butter, buck up, and get strong so he can handle some of these big-time offensive linemen in the NFL. It's hard for defensive linemen. It takes them a few years to be able to become a man, to be able to manhandle grown men like that. So it's not easy for a defensive lineman to come in and dominate. And Quinn struggled a little bit in his rookie season as expected. Now let's talk about Simi Fehoko. He was a highly regarded wide receiver coming out of Stanford, and you know, a lot of teams and a lot of NFL execs was very high on him, man, and a lot of people were saying that was a decent draft pick by the Cowboys, and a lot of teams had his attention. So, you know, we didn't see much from Simi. We had a load of wide receiving core with Amari Cooper, you know, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, Malik Turner, you know, Cedric Wilson. We had a loaded wide receiving core, so it was very difficult for him to get on the field, which is understandable because, you know, we was loaded and he was a rookie. He's still figuring it out, and he really didn't get to make his mark. But now we are kind of empty on the wide receiving end, and we lost Coop and Cedric Wilson. So now, Simi, your time to shine is now. If you want to make your mark, now is your time to shine. Go and get your title, man. So shout out to Simi. We need you to step up this year. Now let's talk about Josh Ball. You know, we drafted him, and he was supposed to be a decent player. I think he had a little baggage coming in the draft, but he didn't get to earn his time on the field either. We had a pretty loaded offensive line, even though they didn't perform to the level that we needed them to. But we did have a lot of offensive linemen, that a decent starting core and a decent bench with swing tackles and stuff like that. We had Lyle coming back, Terrence Steele, you know, Connor McGovern. We had Connor Wiggs. We had a lot of offensive linemen who supposed to been contributing at a high level. But, you know, he was behind all of them. So, you know, it was tough for him to make his mark on the field as a rookie. So hopefully this year coming in, he can make his mark and earn a spot on his roster. I think he was dealing with a few injuries as well. So hopefully he can stay healthy and, you know, show up and show out next year in 2022. Now, one of my favorite players we drafted, Jabril Cox. You know, he had an outstanding preseason. He was looking like a monster. He was going sideline to sideline. He is the equivalent to a cornerback playing linebacker to me, but he actually is physical and make tackles. Like, he can cover any tight end that you got. Now, maybe he gonna be a mismatch in size because the tight end might be heavier and taller and stuff like that, but he'll be there. He's gonna make it difficult for any tight end in the league. I can't wait for him and Micah to team up. They're gonna be an outstanding manic type duo at linebacker. They are gonna cause terror throughout the whole NFL for years to come, in my opinion. I'm very high on Jabril Cox. Now let's talk about the shocker of the draft, Nahshon Wright. This guy from a small school who nobody had on their radar. The Cowboys thought very highly of him. I trust Dan Quinn. But you know, when he came in, he had a decent camp. He was making plays all over the field in camp. And we didn't know if he was gonna be able to make him a starting role at all, because he was actually making plays in camp. So, you know, he made a mark in camp, but it didn't translate to the regular season. I believe he got in on some, you know, special team type roles, but I think Nahshon could be a pretty good player, man. Mr. Richard Sherman himself, you know, he challenged Richard Sherman and said he's a more athletic version, but that didn't come into fruition last season. But hopefully, you never know, he could take a big leap next year and show everybody why the Cowboys picked him so highly in the 3rd round. So shout out to Nahshon Wright, man. I like his body build. I think he could be a pretty solid player at his full potential. Now let's talk about Chauncey Golston, man. You know, from all them Vach film sessions, shout out to Vach, we looked at Chauncey Golston tape, and you know, he was a immovable force out there on that defensive line, man. He was making noise. He's very versatile. He could play inside and out on the edge, and you know, he was an outstanding player for his team, man. I think he came out of Iowa, I'm not sure, I'm sorry. But you know, Chauncey was a pretty solid player. He got him a role, and he was in part of the rotation on the defensive line for the Cowboys last year. So that's big. That's a big sign for a rookie, especially on the defensive line, to earn a starting rotation spot on the NFL team, man. Now, one of my other favorite players, Osa Odighizuwa, you know, he ended up being basically a starter last year, man. He had a lot of splash plays, especially when Neville Gallimore came back. It's like he turned up another notch. When D-Law got back, when he had better players around him, Osa was making noise. He was making splash plays consistently on that defensive line throughout the year. So that's huge for a rookie defensive lineman. Like, that's not normal. That's not regular. That shouldn't be overlooked. That should be respected, man. Osa Odighizuwa is gonna be a problem. He's gonna be a beast once he get this off-season work and off-season peanut butter, like Vach say. Once he get big and bulk up, man, Osa is gonna be a monster. He's gonna cause terror, wreak havoc. You know how I say. He's gonna be a monster, man. So I'm just excited. One of my favorite players we drafted last year, man, Osa Odighizuwa, is gonna be a beast. Now let's talk about Vach pet cat. You know, we was watching his film sessions. We all fell in love with him as a whole nation. Boss man fat Kelvin Joseph. And you know, he was pretty lackluster last year. We just knew he was gonna walk in day one and take that starring role, but that didn't work out like we thought. But sure enough, Anthony Brown had his best year ever. And you know, he seen that young buck and he kept him at arm's length away from the starting job throughout the year. We didn't know if Anthony was gonna be able to consistently keep that play up, but he maintained that starting role. And you know, it really ain't too bad of a knock on Kelvin Joseph, because Anthony Brown was playing so well. So you can't really just hate on him like that, man. So hopefully he can battle to the death again with Anthony Brown and see who win and take that position. Or I'm not sure if Anthony Brown gonna be here. He's still a free agent, but if he stays, they're gonna have to battle it out again and see who wins the starring role. Now, this is the icing on the cake. This is what makes this whole draft worth it. It don't matter if none of these other players become nothing, in my opinion, because we hit so big on this year's #1 draft pick, the one, the only Micah Parsons, man. That the defensive player of the year, in my opinion. He got snubbed big time, and he won defensive rookie of the year, but in my opinion, he was the most outstanding defender of the year. Outside of Trayvon Diggs and people like that, I feel like Micah Parsons was a monster, a man amongst boys in his rookie year. So just imagine what kind of jump he's got the potential to make next year, man. He's gonna wreak havoc. He's gonna be a monster, a problem in this league. That's a fact. You see he got 11 sacks, I believe, his rookie year. Just made it look easy. Micah is gonna be a staple on his defense. Dan Quinn knocked it out the park. Mike McCarthy, everybody deserved their kudos for drafting Micah Parsons, man. After we all was sad for missing out on the corners from Denver and Carolina, you know, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. We got the best consolation prize in the history of the NFL, in my opinion. But just holla at your boy Landlord from Alabama with the same handle on all social sites, man. Just holla at your boy. And like I say, 1K, one love, Cowboys Nation. Let's go.